Hi everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm broadcasting to you from Central Europe, and today we are looking at IELTS Task 1, writing a bar chart. Our materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. We have 6 full original practice exams with audio, as well as over 100 hours of video lessons, and a fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, PC. For general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com and be sure to join our courses there. Hi Paula, hi Begzod, our members coming in nice and early. Good to see you. Hi Pachu, hi Ibrahim, hi Hasnain, good to see you in class. Hi Kisi, hi Harminder, hi Aigul, another 3 members. Great. Good to see all of you. All right, just a quick peek at our websites, students. This is our academic IELTS website here. You can click that big red button to join it, get into your My Student account. You can use it on your phone, your tablet. It's fully responsive. Same with our general IELTS website. Looks like this with the green background. Click that big red button to join it. Hi, Rahul. Good evening to you as well. Fantastic. Friday and everybody's being very studious. Good for you. I tip my hat to you studious ones. The world is yours in the future. I'm sure of it. All right. So if you have questions about IELTS or our products, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Hi, Pinley. I'll be happy to respond. And these classes are from 15 to 16 o'clock according to Central European time. So today it's task 1 for members. Tomorrow it's members chat. Don't worry about the time there. That's wrong. It's 15 to 16 o'clock. All right. Let's take a look at today's question. Here we go. Task 1, writing, academic IELTS. The bar chart below shows Scotland's exports to the rest of the UK and the rest of the world for the year 2014. Begzod, I bet you're thinking, wow, that looks familiar. And it is. I borrowed your question. Thank you for submitting that one, Begzod. All right, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So it's a very typical type of bar chart question. Okay, so we take a quick peek at the chart here. So this is what the chart looks like. It's orange is UK exports to the rest of the world, export to the rest of the UK. And then the blue is rest of the world. So Scotland's exports to the rest of UK, that's the orange. And then the blue is the rest of the world. Of course, the rest of UK is Ireland, England, and Wales. The rest of the world are the other 200 and some odd countries. And then here we have our y-axis data. And here we have our x-axis data, if you don't see the words clearly yet, don't worry about that, okay? All right, we don't need to look at those details just yet. What do we need to do? What is our first step here, students? So task 1, bar chart, what should we do? What's our first step? What must we do? Okay, I want to see a little bit more Aigul and Paula. You've got the first half. Begzod's got the full 2 pieces. Harminder, Paula, remember, details, right? I know you know it, but I just want you to think it as well. I know you know it, but I want you to think it. So paraphrase with detail. Students, always, the first step is paraphrase with detail. I see a lot of students these days separating introduction and overview. You really don't need to do that. The overview is the introduction, so no need to separate those out. I see a lot of students separating the introduction and the overview. I'll just make a note of that. So I've seen that quite often, and I think it's unnecessary and can even confuse you at times. So here's my first note for today. Note: the overview and the introduction are basically the same, okay? You do not need 2 paragraphs for this. It looks awkward to have just 2 single sentence paragraphs, which are both basically the introduction. You do not need 2 paragraphs for this. Just 1, okay? It's an expository essay, okay? So this is called an expository essay. It's meant to expose, explain an idea, or in this case, a bar chart. And the overview is the introduction, okay? So step 1, paraphrase the question with more detail. Let's do that. So here, and Begzod, you did a fantastic job. If you're listening, you got a band 9 on this one. So you don't worry about repeating yourself in this class. Show the world how smart you really are. So here, just paraphrase this information, and then we'll give some more details. So first of all, just paraphrase this. The bar chart below shows Scotland exports to the rest of the UK and the rest of the world for the year 2014. Okay, what kind of a bar chart is it? Think about that. What is it showing? I'll zoom around a little bit so you can see a bit more of this chart. Okay. So there you see the y-axis. It's agriculture, forestry, fishing, and mining. All right. Okay. Rize Chan, I didn't say don't write an overview. I said write an overview, but your overview and your introduction are the same. Okay. Does anybody know what kind of a bar chart it is when you have the bars going this way? There we go, Harminder. Very good. So Harminder says this horizontal bar chart reveals. Good start, Harminder. That's what I was waiting for. So this horizontal bar chart reveals Scotland's exports to where? So here's again the question. To the rest of the UK and the rest of the world. You can emphasize that a little bit. How can you emphasize it? Okay, you can emphasize it with a correlative conjunction when you have these two, okay? Clifton, Felix says, this horizontal bar chart gives information about the percentage of stuff exports from Scotland to the rest of Great Britain compared to the other areas of the world. In 2014, Clifton, you have some nice paraphrasing there. Instead of UK, Great Britain, you can even break it down, right? So, good. The horizontal bar chart illustrates 5 fields of exports to the rest of the UK and abroad in 2014. Paula, I like it. Okay, it's some nice paraphrasing as well. Okay. This is a horizontal bar chart because the bars are horizontally aligned. So it's correct. Vertical bars are like this. These are horizontal bars. So it is correct to say it like that. And we have industry here on the y-axis. So you have the word industry. And on the x-axis, you have billions of pounds. So go ahead and write the details to the introduction. Okay. In the y-axis, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different industries. Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 6 more. So you have 9 industries on the y-axis. And on the x-axis, you have 0 to 16 billion pounds. Okay? So that's what you have there. Okay, so add those details to your overview / introduction. Okay? All right. I'll do the same, borrowing from what some of you have written. So this horizontal bar chart reveals Scotland's exports to both the other countries of Great Britain and the rest of the world in 2014. At first look, it is apparent that the y-axis depicts 9 various, right words, 0 to 10, 9 various industries, and the x-axis shows value, monetary value of exports from 0 to 18 billion pounds. Okay, that's what I have. Let's see what you have. Harminder says, this horizontal bar chart reveals Scotland's export to the rest of UK and abroad in 2014. On the y-axis, there are 9 industries, and on the x-axis, the money value is revealed in billions. Okay, it's good, Harminder. Just watch your grammar a little bit. Couple of slight mistakes there. Okay, so careful with that. All right. Let's see. Anybody else coming up with those details? Come up with the details. Rahul, the y-axis represents the value of money ranging from 0 to 16 billion pounds, whereas the y-axis represents the 9 various industries. Nice, Rahul. I like your use of whereas, and I like the structure of your sentence. It's good. Okay. And sometimes students ask, do I need to talk about the y and the x axes? Yeah, absolutely, because that gives your reader a clear picture of what you are discussing. Okay, so it is good to name that or to describe it. Okay. So I can't read the Chinese, but the sentence start is good. So the bar chart compares Scotland's exports to the UK and the rest of the world in terms of 9 different industries, ranging from a sale revenue of 0 to 18 billion pounds. Okay. Parth Shah is asking, how many bands? Well, here we're going for band 9. Okay, so that's what our goal is. All right, students, so that looks like a good overview / introduction. Okay, notice how I did not separate it into 2 parts. And now I'm going to go into the analysis. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Bear with me. I'll try to move it around. So this first one here is agriculture and forestry, manufacturing, food and drink, chemicals and mineral products. Okay. So as most of you know, at this point, before I begin writing anything else, I need to identify my key points of comparison. What am I looking for in this bar chart when I'm comparing key points here? What am I looking for? So I have chemical mineral products, I have metals, mechanical transport equipment, electrical instruments, engineering. I have other manufacturing. I have wholesale retail. I have business, service, and finance, hotel and restaurant services. Okay, and then I have other services. So what am I looking for specifically when I'm thinking about what to compare and contrast? What am I comparing? Okay, this is an important concept to figure out before you begin to write, so that you can write good quality information. It's hard to write a Band 9 essay if you don't have good quality information. So Kesey says, compare the UK to the rest of the world. Absolutely. And what else? What else should I compare? Paula says, compare the highest exports to the lowest. Yeah, so compare among the industries. That's right. Begzod says, compare among the industries. Should I write about all of the information that I see in the bar chart? Is that a good idea? Bagzod says, no, absolutely not. Yeah, that would be a very daunting task, even for a native speaker, because there's lots of information there with 9 industries. So I'm focusing only on the key features, okay? And translating those numbers into human languages. So I'm comparing UK to the rest of the world, and then I'm comparing among the industries. Okay, sure. So let's take a look at the graph one more time. Okay, I'm going to kind of zoom in here. We don't need to see the details. We just need to see the bars right now. So again, the orange bars are UK, blue bars are the rest of the world. What should I do for comparing UK to the rest of the world as far as exports? So don't worry about the names of industries yet. What should I look at? What's the most obvious at first glance? Let me ask you this way. How many of these industries see significantly more revenue with the world than with just the UK? Well, let's have a look. So, okay, take a look at this first little bar. It's about 5 times less than the blue, right? So this is 1, okay? Let me use a different symbol here. So in this case, there's much more export going to the rest of the world. In this case, there's double the export. In this case, there's at least double, if not way more. In this case, there's double, if not more. In this case, it's like 10 times more. In this case, it's 10 times more. So my first point of comparison at first glance, looking at this in a very intelligent way, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 9 industries. This is my point 1. So 6 of 9 industries are 2 or even as much as 6 times greater export or revenue for the rest of the world than the UK, right? So 6 of 9 industries are much, much more. A couple of them, so this one here, they're relatively similar. And interestingly, the electrical and instrument engineering is the only industry where there is more revenue to Scotland from exporting to the rest of UK. So this would be my point number 2. Is everybody following with me so far, what I'm doing? Is that clear? So what I said so far, is that clear? Okay, I need some feedback here, because if I've lost everyone, then I'm just talking to myself. And with 160 plus students watching, I'd hate to just be talking to myself. All right. So again, looking at these key comparisons, right? When you look at a bar chart, look at what is the most contrasting information. This one, of course, jumps out, right? So if I go into more details now, then I can talk about the most significant of this one. So that could be my point number 3, is the business services and finance is distinctly greater for international than to local, and it is the highest overall among all industries, right? So, all right, so we have that. Then where should I go? So I have point number 1, 6 of 9 industries see much greater revenue from the rest of the world than locally in the UK, except for 1, electrical and instrument engineering, which sees greater revenue from UK than other parts of the globe. And then we have number 3, which should be my number 4. What do you think? Paula, that's a good question. So Paula's saying, how many points should I indicate? I would indicate for something like this, roughly 6, 7 points. That's still within 15 minutes time, Paula. You should be within 15 minutes to describe 6, 7 points. No more than that. Okay. Bar 2 and 4 have a similar trend. Yeah, that's okay to describe, so I could do that. So this is where some of these essays might start to vary a little bit. So here for manufacturing, we have a lot of UK as well as global export. Same with this one. I wouldn't find that too interesting myself, that similarity. Tina's saying, why 5 points? Tina, I said 6 or 7 points. Because roughly that will make up at least 150 words, okay? And it will discuss most of the main features, Tina. So 6 or 7 points should touch on most of the main features that you can see, okay? In fact, I would probably, after number 3, I would probably talk about this one for number 4, okay? And this one for number 5. Why? So I would actually not concern myself too much about bars 2 and 4. I would rather think about it as an economist. So Muhammad Zor is asking, why would you do that, right? So why would you name this as the 4th one, and why would you name this as number 5? If I'm a businessman or an economist, I would look at those before I look at these bars. Why? A lot of you are asking me the same question. Why are you doing that? Amar Deep says, well, because 5 and 4 are revenues. Notice a little trick here. So this is when you're really taking both your thinking and your language to the next level. If I add together, this is 13.8 billion, so it's almost 14, plus 1.7. So here I have roughly $16 billion in revenue, okay? Don't forget your math skills, students. So here I have roughly 16 billion for this point number 3, okay? For chemicals and mineral products, I have roughly 14.5 billion overall revenue, okay? And for wholesale and retail, I have 9.3 billion. Okay? These 3 industries make up at least 50% of Scotland's export revenue. Okay? So that's my logic here, right? Think about your audience. Who would be likely looking at this graph? Be an economist, it would be a businessman, right? They're looking for those high numbers. That's what they're most interested in. Where are we making money? Where is Scotland making money? Okay, so that's why I would go with 4 and 5 here. And then I might say something like this point, this point, and this point as number 6. Okay, that would be my 6th point. Why did I say that? So why would I say agriculture, forestry, other services, metals would be number 6? Because it's the least significant. If I run out of time, it's not the end of the world. It makes up maybe a total of 20% of the total revenue, not even, probably less than 20% of Scotland's money. So I think that this would be a very effective structure. But if you don't get this, okay, so if you don't identify it perfectly like this, then it's not the end of the world. Okay, you can still get a very good band score. But keep in mind, okay, again, a very, very tactful, strategic way to understand task 1 and task 2 is a piece of advice that I gave in class 2 days ago, I think. Yes, in our speaking class 2 days ago. Does everybody remember that interesting piece of advice that I gave for, I think it was part 2? There was a very important piece of advice that can really help bump up your band scores in different sections, okay? So here is a big tip, okay, for you. So tip, when you are analyzing the graph and labeling or rank ordering, it's a better word, rank ordering your key features or points, think about who would use this graph, okay? In our example here, it's a businessman or economist. And then think about, what is this person most interested in? Of course, as many of you know, money is probably a good answer for some of these questions, okay? So again, the tip that I gave, and that some of you will say, oh yeah, of course, I remember now, is think about your audience. Okay, keep thinking of your audience. All right, students, so you have these points in mind. I'll draw that up again just so you can see it, and then let's write the analysis. Let's write the body paragraph. So keep that in mind, okay? All right. So point number 1, 6 of 9 of these industries sees much greater revenue from the rest of the world than within the UK. That's point number 1. Point number 2, the only industry which earns more within the UK than the rest of the world, it just fits well there, is electrical instruments and engineering. Number 3, the greatest grossing industry is business services and finance. Okay. And the second after that is chemicals and mineral products. Third, highest grossing revenue total is wholesale and retail. And then the remaining 3 industries make up roughly about 20% of the revenue. That's number 6. So let's start to write these points. First of all, students, write point number 1, that 6 of 9 industries see much greater revenue from the world than the UK. Remember how much more, okay? So remember the differences here in the size of these red and blue bars, all right? So that's my challenge. Write it, please, okay? Let's see your question, Begzod. The reason, Begzod, I'm not talking about that is because it's not actually a main feature. 1 billion compared to 14 billion is relatively a small amount of money. Okay. So Clifton says in 2014, most industries, 8 of 9, exported to other countries, while in the electrical sector, most funds spent on Scotland's exports to the United Kingdom. Clifton, I'm quite confused by that. I think you're trying to cram way too much information into one sentence. You need to break that into some more simple sentences. So I'll write the first sentence while you're writing yours. I'll write mine, and then we'll compare. So all right. The names of the industries, Pachu, don't matter so much. So students, when you have a graph like this, please do not spend a lot of time and words trying to write down the names of these industries. They're lengthy and they're complex. So agriculture, forestry, fishing, and mining, that's just one industry. If you start writing down the names of all of these industries, your essay will be confusing, awkward, and not very well written. So here the goal isn't to name all of the industries. It's to make good comparisons. All right? So Rahul says the 6 out of 9 industries have much more revenue value, roughly something billions to the rest of the world as compared to the UK. Yeah, Rahul, that's good. So the XX, you can't see the bar clearly enough, so you're leaving out the value that you would add up there. It's smart, okay? Use what you have. Don't worry about what you don't. Absolutely, Rahul. And it looks good, all right? That's a good start. Paula says, it is seen from the chart that 6 of the 9 industries had exported to other territories in the world, being the majority of Scotland's income. Let me fix that, Paula. It is seen from the chart that 6 of the 9 industries export to other territories in the world, which make up the majority of Scotland's income. Paula, careful with your adjective clauses, okay? Use your adjective clauses, the which, that, in these cases. Begzod says, when looking at the graph in more detail, it becomes clear that 6 industries of export had the highest revenue to the rest of the world as opposed to the UK. Begzod, you need to finish that idea. All right, you have to complete that comparison. It's very important. Otherwise, you're losing marks. All right. Kesey says 6 of 9 industries. You don't need that second of, Kesey. 6 of 9 industries exported abroad, 6 times greater than the rest of the UK. Good, Kesey. Yeah. I would say, Kesey, to say an average of 4 to 5 times greater. So 6 of 9 industries exported abroad for an average of 4 to 5 times greater than to the rest of the UK. Then, Kesey, you have a good sentence. Okay. Harminder says it can be crystal. It is, not it can be, Harminder. It is. It is crystal clear from the bar chart that 6 industries got higher, relative, not superlative, higher revenue, which is approximately 10 billion pounds. Yeah, that's also clear, Harminder. I think you're taking a different approach to point number 1. It's not a bad approach, it's just different. Okay. All right. So you saw my sentence. This is what I wrote. Immediately. Okay, I'm going to erase these points. Hopefully you kept them in mind. Of course, on the IELTS, you'll have those in front of you. Okay. So immediately, it is noticeable that 6 of 9 industries relied much heavier on international sales than within the UK, at least double, and in several cases as much as 5 times more. All right, that is your band 9 first sentence. Okay, so students, remember point number 2. Point number 2 is with electrical instruments and engineering, where basically you have more within the UK and less to the rest of the world. So let's quickly put a sentence in about this contrast. Now, I know it's not a huge feature, but it's a quick, easy point or band score increase because I can show contrast. Remember, task 1 asks you to make comparisons and contrasts. So this is a nice contrast to that first sentence. So write that for me. Okay, write the sentence that describes this anomaly, this unique difference. Okay, it's an anomaly because it's very different from these other bars where the blue is always greater than the red. Okay, so look for that. All right. Okay, so while you do that, I'm going to do the same. So I will describe that. Again, that's electrical and instruments engineering. Okay, it's 4 billion for the red, 2.3. Again, numbers are not too important. Okay, so write that sentence and I will do the same. All right. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit quiet, let you compose your thoughts. All right, let's see what you have. Pachu says, interestingly, exports of Scotland is 2 times greater for electrical and mechanical engineering industry. Okay, yeah, that's okay, Pachu. It's okay, it's a good start. However, you must, Pachu, replace the word than with for. Okay. Aksa Rahman says UK has much more revenue in electrical and instrumental engineering than the rest of the world. Aska, it's not UK that has much more revenue. It's Scotland that has much more revenue from the UK. Okay, remember UK has 4 countries, right? Ireland, England, Wales, Scotland. So Amardeep, however, transport equipment, oh, it's going pretty fast in the chat. I'll get back to you here, Amardeep, in just a second. Amardeep says, however, the transport equipment has a positive revenue of Scotland's export as compared to the other fields. Amardeep, that's very confusing. You need to rewrite that. Okay. Harminder says, Scotland exports of electrical and instrument engineering in the UK was 4 billion, which is relatively less than the rest of the world at 2.3 billion. Harminder, the sentence is correct, but you're not making a comparison to the previous part. Okay. Notice that here, when I'm connecting, I'm actually contrasting this to the previous part. That's the only value of this sentence, is contrasting to this part here. So nevertheless, one industry, electrical and engineering, did receive roughly twice the revenue from sales to Great Britain than countries overseas at 4.3 billion pounds. Okay, so that makes it clear for the reader that that's a contrast there. Okay. All right. Kesey says, interestingly, instruments industry was the only one which the revenue from UK were higher than the rest of the world, comma, roughly double, right, Kesey? But otherwise, very good. Kesey, that's great. Okay, that's a very nice, accurate. Your goal, students, is always to use the least number of words to give the most accurate piece of information. Kesey, you've done a good job with that at this point. Okay. All right, let's keep moving along. So, sorry I can't read everybody's attempt, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, so keep trying because I'll catch it next time, okay? All right, so everybody remembers what number 3 was? Point number 3 was the highest grossing industry. What was the highest grossing industry? Business, services, and finance. Now, I'm not going to write out all this information. So it says business, services, and finance, hotels, and restaurant services. You don't need to write all of that, okay? So if you write just business, services, and finance, that's enough. Please don't waste a whole amount of space and time and words trying to write out all of the full industry names. The IELTS examiner gets you, okay? They're not going to take marks from you for not writing the whole name of the industry, all right? Instead, focus on the sentence. So next sentence is this one here. Remember, a little bit of math can go a long way to help your IELTS band score. This is considered very simple for a graph, so a grade 10, 11 high school student should be able to analyze this fairly simply. 1.7 plus 13.8 is roughly, it's actually not roughly, it's exactly 15.5 billion, right? It's 15.5 billion pounds, and it's the highest grossing industry in 2014. So write that sentence for me, students. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Pachu. When you have lots of information, you don't need to write the whole information. Just point form. It's okay. All right. So here we go. That's called the business, services, and finance industry. Okay. Write down your sentence. I'll do the same. I'll give you a moment to think in silence while I write. Okay. Okay. If you write these kinds of sentences, I promise you, you'll get a band 9 or a band 9 even with a little star beside it. No, they won't give you the star beside it, but I'm sure the examiner will think, wow, that person really knew not only how to use English, but what they were talking about. Remember, students, that a band 9 in IELTS is what's called an expert user of the English language. And if you look at that band score description, it doesn't just say that the person can use English well, but they can talk specifically in, or they can talk well in specific subject areas, right? So Harminder Dinza says, however, business and finance industry only one which Scotland got highest revenue from the rest of the world. Harminder, that's incorrect. It's not the only one. It's the one which had the highest gross sales, but not the only one. So careful with information mistakes, Harminder. You'll lose points. Begzod says, according to the business and finance industry, it had the highest expenditure. It wasn't expenditure because it's revenue, okay? It's sales. You were exporting, Begzod. Compared to the other 8 areas having 15.5 billion. Careful with word choice, Begzod. That could cost you, okay? Aigul says, in 2014, the business and finance sector's revenue of export to other countries was 12.1 billion pounds, greater than in the UK. I wouldn't make that specific comparison, Aigul. I could make a note at the end of mine of the difference, but I wouldn't start with that detail, okay? Rahul says the highest grossing, not growing, Rahul, the highest grossing. Grossing means money collected total. The highest grossing industry is business, service, and finances, having a revenue of 15.5 billion pounds total, contributing significantly to Scotland's economy. I don't know if we know that information, Rahul, the end of your sentence, but the beginning is okay. This is what I wrote. By summing the totals within each industry, let your audience know what you're doing. This is a very nice sentence to learn for tables and bar graphs. So remember this sentence. You can say it by summing. Summing means adding together, or you could say by adding, okay? By summing to get totals within each industry, it is evident that the highest grossing in 2014 was business and finance at 15.5 billion pounds, of which, you could do it like this, Aigul, of which 13 billion came from international exports, okay? You could do it like that if you wanted to emphasize that most of that was from international exports. Okay, so that'll work. You don't have to, though, but if you really wanted to, you could add that in. Remember, one good trick to add information like this to the end of your idea, again, is what I said to Paula a little bit earlier. Use the adjective pronouns to your advantage, okay? All right. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we can go to the next one, and it's very similar. So here, there's no tricks, students. Here, it's just practice, okay? Notice that the second highest grossing industry is chemicals and minerals. Excuse me. Chemicals and minerals. Chemicals and minerals at 14.5 billion. Okay, it's quite close, relatively quite close, hint, hint, relatively quite close to business and finance. And then after that comes manufacturing and food, so I might mark that one. Manufacturing, food, wholesale, and retail, they're kind of similar. So wholesale and retail, 9.3. manufacturing and food, actually it's a little bit more, it's 10.2, but you don't need the points. You can just say 10 billion, roughly 10 billion. So I'd probably mark that for my next point, okay? So write those sentences. So write the sentences for chemicals and minerals, 14.5 billion. Write that sentence next. So chemicals and mineral products, 14.5 billion. Okay. I'll do the same. So while you write, I'll do the same. That's chemicals and mineral products. Okay. Let's see what you have. Okay. Let's see what you have. I'll show you what I put up here while you're writing. So I wrote the second most valuable industry. We might want to remind the reader that we're talking about Scotland. In Scotland in 2014, a close second at 14.5 billion pounds is chemicals and mineral products. Okay. I took out that piece because it doesn't make sense with this additive clause. Okay. All right. Let's see what you have. I see some nice comments coming up now. So Aska says, the overall second highest grossing industry was chemicals and minerals, which is worth 14.5 billion pounds in 2014. Aksa, Rahman, that's good. Okay, that's good. You don't need the second industry, so don't go industry. Industry was chemicals and minerals. We know that that's the industry, which is worth 14.5 billion pounds in 2014. Okay. Pachu, I'm using present tense because I'm referring to the graph, not the actual year. Okay, when you're referring to the graph, you're staying in the present tense because you're generalizing the information. It's generally true. All right, that's a little bit tricky, but if you have a question about that, send me an email and I'll describe it more. Okay, all right. Then comes the next point, which is the manufacturing, food and drink. So if I have lots more time, I can go into those. Next was manufacturing, food and drink at 10 billion pounds, as well as other manufacturing. Okay, so I can go into those details as well. If I have more time. How many words do I have at this point? Let's see. Just to get an idea of how much details I need to go into. So here we go. Right now, my word count is 169. Okay. So I'm already at the word limit. That's 150 words. So you have to get to at least 150 words to get a high band. I have 169, which means that I'm doing quite well. All right. If I want to get a band 9, I'd probably be closer to 220 words on this essay. And I would say include one or two more sentences. So I would say maybe something like, the remaining 8 industries accounted for the other 50% of Scotland's total export sales. Okay, so if I'm running out of time, I might just do something like this. I'm running out of time in the class, students, as some of you may have noticed. So I'm trying to wrap it up. But in the IELTS 2, if I'm running out of time, I don't want to take time from task 2. Okay, it's very important that you spend 40 minutes on task 2 and just 20 minutes on task 1. So don't spend more than 20 minutes on task 1. All right, and then I might do a little bit of a summary. So in summary, it is very clear or obvious. I think I've used the word clear a few times. In summary, it is very obvious that most of Scotland's exports are abroad. However, certain industries rely heavily on UK imports in England, Ireland, and Wales. Okay. All right, so that could be a nice quick summary to wrap it up. Okay, so again, just discussing another kind of main feature or comparison that I hadn't mentioned yet, where even though Scotland's majority of exports and sales depend on the rest of the world, there are certain industries, right, such as the electronics industry, which depends greatly on the purchases of England, Ireland, and Wales. I hope that makes sense, students. So I hope that is clear. Now it's about closer to 200 words. Again, in the real IELTS, I'd probably put in one more sentence about the 2 other major industries that each gross roughly $10 billion, or sorry, 10 billion pounds. But having run out of time and space, I'm going to wrap it up there, and that will still get you a band 9. It will get you a very high score. Let's read it together. So this horizontal bar chart reveals Scotland's exports to both other countries of Great Britain and the rest of the world in 2014. At first look, it is apparent that the y-axis depicts 9 various industries, and the x-axis shows monetary value of exports from 0 to 18 billion pounds. Immediately, it is noticeable that 6 of the 9 industries relied much heavier on international sales than within UK, at least double, and in several cases as much as 5 times more. Nevertheless, one industry, electrical and engineering, did receive roughly twice the revenue from sales to Great Britain than countries overseas, at 4.3 billion pounds. By summing the by summing the bars, correct that sentence. By summing the bars within each industry, it is evident that the highest grossing in 2014 was business and finance at 15.5 billion pounds, comma, of which 13.8 billion came from international exports. The second most valuable industry, a close second at 14.5 billion pounds, is chemicals and mineral products. In this industry, domestic sales accounted for half of the total in 2014. The remaining 8 industries accounted for the other 50% of Scotland's total export sales. In summary, it is very obvious that most of Scotland's exports are abroad. However, certain industries rely heavily on UK imports in England, Ireland, and Wales. Okay. All right, students, so that's it for today. The most important tips that I want you to keep in mind from today's class is, number one, the overview and the introduction. It's one paragraph, okay? Overview is the introduction and overview is an introduction, okay? Identify what you want to compare before you start labeling your points. That's very, very important. Okay, think about your target audience. Who would look at a graph like this? Okay, it would probably be a businessman or an economist. What are they interested in? Well, which industries are making the most money? Okay, so think about that. All right. Think about your audience in both oral and written communication. Okay, those are my tips to you. And I know that a lot of you are writing IELTS exams this weekend. So from the depth of my heart, I wish you truly good luck on your IELTS exams for those of you that are writing them this coming Saturday. Remember just to be confident, calm, okay? Think step by step, pace yourself, okay? IELTS is a bit of a marathon. You need to space your energy. It's a long exam. And you'll do well, okay? Don't stress, don't panic. Fear, anxiety can be the worst enemy. So just remember the sun will shine tomorrow. Much love to all of you. Have a great rest of your day. Again, remember to visit our websites for lots of fantastic help with IELTS, okay? aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. And tomorrow, members chat class. I believe it's task 2. Bye for now.